What's up guys, Random Outdoorsman here, back with another video. Today I'm going to be going over what type of rod is the best in my opinion. Let's get started. Alright, so first up in these rods is going to be a cane pole. Alright, so these are very simple rods. This one's even a collapsible. It's 10 feet long, made by Shakespeare. These are very cheap most often. You can get some expensive ones, but for the most part they're cheap. You can even make your own actually really easily. But to rig them is also very simple. You just tie your line to the end. That tip right there has got a little circle. Tie your line and then rig it up however you want. Whether it be like a bobber rig or a crappie jig, and you can catch a lot of stuff on this, but it's best suited for smaller fish like trout and panfish. I've even caught bass on these actually. Very fun, a whole ton of fun. The only problems with these that I have is that since there is no reel, you can't really catch as big a fish unless you have a giant cane pole. That's because you can't utilize the drag most reels have. But overall, a very solid, very good option, especially for beginners because it's hard to mess up. The next is going to be a spin cast. This is a very old reel. It used to be my grandfather's. It's from 1956 actually. And it's on a more modern Shakespeare rod. These spin casts are actually, I think they're best suited for kids, simply because, especially younger kids, simply because they're easy to use. You just press the button and you cast. You can't really bird's nest it, it's hard to tangle it up, and you can utilize drag on these and store line on the reel. And it's still kind of fun to catch fish on these, just for the fun of it. But another very good thing about these is that they're generally very cheap. You can get them for like $9 in certain areas, but you can also get some higher end ones. I know Cast King makes a really nice spin cast. Now the problem I can think of is these are very hard to rig, especially for beginners, because you have to screw the top off, put the line through the hole, and they can also be a pain to put the line on because there's a little ridge on these, as you can see right there. It's kind of hard to get in there, tie a decent knot, and even sometimes cutting off knots is kind of difficult. But yeah, you can catch a ton of different fish, and these reels and rods come in bunches of different sizes, and yeah, just very solid, pretty nice rods. Yeah, just kind of hard to put line on. And another factor is that they don't hold a whole lot of line. So yeah. The next rod is going to be the classic spinning rod. Alright, these are some of my favorite rods because they are very versatile. You can throw almost anything with these rods. You can throw light lures, you can throw heavy lures, what have it. Alright, you can get them for pretty cheap, but you can also get some pretty high-end reels and rods. Another good thing is that you have that drag and you have some line so you can fight bigger fish. Yeah, and they usually have higher gear ratios than, say, a spin cast, and they actually have a gear ratio unlike the cane pole, because the cane pole doesn't have a reel. So yeah, and you can get a bunch of different sizes, you can get different speeds, and they feel nice. I know like a lot of bass fishermen like to use them for finesse fishing, and you can also use them for saltwater stuff. And yeah, super simple, easy to cast. You just hook your finger around, flip the bail and cast, and they're kind of just fun to play with. Especially this one from Kuda, which is really smooth. I just like it. Alright, the next rod. Alright, we're starting to get into the more difficult zone of fishing. This is a bait caster. I love bait casting. ever since I learned how to use them a few years ago. One of the biggest problems is learning how to use these. All right, they're pretty difficult to learn, but once you get the hang of it, it's smooth sailing. You still get the occasional bird's nest. Yeah, bird's nest, very, very bad. You don't want a bird's nest. All right, it wastes line and money, most importantly. But for cost, these rods and reels are generally higher than most spinning, but again, there's a high end and a low end. You can just set up for like $45, which isn't terrible. Yeah, and another factor that I don't typically like, especially for beginners, is learning how to use your brakes and your tension knob. That took me a while to get the hang of how to use them and to, remember to use these. They also come in a ton of different sizes, speeds. The baitcasters are generally much higher speeds than spinning reels, mostly because these styles of baitcasters are meant for bass fishing almost exclusively. You can fish with other stuff, but they're built to catch bass, and bass are generally a faster fish. They like fast-moving stuff. But again, you can get different speeds. This one's a 6.4 to 1, which is about an average. You can use it for anything. You can also get a bunch of different sized rods and lengths. So a solid choice. Just you gotta get used to timing, so you don't get a big bird's nest, and you gotta remember to use your brakes and tension knob. Alright, so the last type of rod is a good old fly rod. Alright, this is my Crosswater Redington Crosswater 8-weight. Alright, fly rods, they're kind of hard to use. You just gotta learn timing and angles, which isn't a huge deal. You don't get big bird's nests like you do on the baitcasters unless you're stripping line real hard with your drag, like really low. But it's not as bad as the bird's nest you get on a baitcaster. You just kind of undo it. These tend to be very expensive. You can get some cheap ones, but they're usually no good. My first my first fly rod was a Shakespeare Cedar Canyon. It was like $50. It was good. It taught me how to fly. It helped me learn to fly fish. But I was super glad when I was able to upgrade to this. They're usually a bit longer, kind of hard to store, unless you have the hard cases. Pretty much nothing bad about them. They're really fun because they're usually a little thinner than most rods to catch fish on. You can get them in a ton of different sizes, anywhere from like 1 weight to 12 weight. That's the average. You can go a little bit higher than 12 weight, but those are very hard to find. And again, very, very fun to catch fish on. So that's the fly rod. Now, out of all those choices, what is my favorite? Well, of course, it's gonna be the fly rod. What did you expect? I'm a snobby fly fisherman. Alright, but in all seriousness, my favorite rod is gonna be a spinning reel and rod, mostly because of how versatile they are. You can throw almost anything with these and still have a good time. You can use the drag, and it's just all around good. You can take these in saltwater, freshwater. You're not going to have any problems as long as you treat it properly. Same with any rod, but it's just very versatile, fun, and a bunch of different sizes. And they also kind of look cool. I like the look of spinning reels a lot more than, say, a spin cast or a baitcaster. But yeah, that is my favorite rod. That is the best rod in my opinion. Again, it is my opinion. Comment down below what your favorite type of rod is. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share with a friend. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.